I'm going to start out with a couple passages. But before I get to the opening passage that was read earlier, I just want to read a couple others just for now, kind of tuck behind one ear and keep them there for later. First one I'm going to start with is in 1 Peter chapter 1, 6 through 7. In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while, if need be, you have been grieved by various trials, that the genuineness of your faith, being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to praise, honor, and glory at the revelation of Jesus Christ. The other one, very close. It's in James, chapter 1, but verse 19. So then, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, for the wrath of man does not produce the righteousness of God. In that chapter, it's talking about qualities needed in trials. I'm going to recap James chapter 1, 2 through 8. As I'm reading, I want you to think about how it may fit in your life at some point in time if you've gone through a test, people have questioned your faith, any kind of trial. And being what we've all just gone through last year, I think anybody can kind of relate to facing some adversity in some way. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. And any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Today, I know some of you know my path of how I came to the church. I was not raised in the Adventist church. I was actually raised in the Lutheran church. I went to school there and everything. We left there, and through the times trying to find an actual church at which preached the love of God and not the love of money or what you do, your works, was not easy. Thankfully, my mom found some like Bible studies online, and it led to Pastor Rick, which I'm pretty sure most everybody here knows, and knows how he comes to your door when he comes to visit, you know, his gardening shirt, shorts, and his sandals. And that was quite the testimony to me. Very open, very comforting. But it's still a lot of questions in my mind. I worked shift work, so I worked every other weekend, sometimes nights, days, and it was in a factory. So I had to go through the process of what did I want to do? And it's quite the test of my own mind. And it was very challenging. I kind of moved positions even at my work to try to clear up my mind, trying to reason it on my own, which I learned does not work, only makes things worse. Well, the more I became open and realizing, praying, and finally humbling myself to the answers that I needed, that's when the trial really started. People at my work, two mainly in particular, one was my manager, other was another employee there, started questioning why I was going to this faith. Working nights can cause issues too in that, and even trying to explain that that was a way to find comfort, that it helps you. Having faith can help you get through difficult times, but they did not understand that. So one thing led to another, a lot of things behind my back, but then they started attacking me right to my face about my own faith now that I had come to love. And at this time, I still had to work my shift work, and so that was quite the test. To get off of shift work and not have to work Sabbath, once again, though, I thought I could do it on my own and just work around it and take it just nice and easy. The only thing that led to was being attacked more. And then it became direct, or right to my face. They actually would make very vulgar comments about my new faith. When that happened, I finally realized I cannot do this on my own. When you're going through trials, the Lord always has a plan for you, always has help there for you. Pastor Rick had already at that time contacted the conference, and at that time, he's now the conference president, Pastor Titus was in charge of religious liberties. Contacted him, gave him the situation. He sent a letter to our HR, which I was already working with, that was having difficulties as well because it was a manager that was part of the problem, moving me. The letter was enough for them because that they had the legal write-out of what the manager and everybody was doing wrong by not giving me Sabbath off. And they took it right through corporate. They got the letter on a Wednesday, and it was solved by that Friday. When I was trying to do it on my own, it was lasting weeks, if not months. When I humbled myself and asked for the Lord's help, it literally took 3 days. As Chuck can even relate, I know, when the COVID hit, things at jobs became very difficult and put people through a lot of different stress and trials. Mine once again, and I got comfortable because I had no issues for many years then. They, once again, with a new HR person that did not know me, did not have the respect for it, threatened my job again. This time going through it the first time, knowing that doing it on your own does not work, prayed to the Lord, got a hold of the conference, Religious Liberties, at which they sent it to the Lake Union, to the one professor there and lawyer. He sent a letter to the HR and then to my supervisor, which actually is a friend of mine. He was glad that I did that. He was actually hoping, and told me that off to the side, gave that to his boss, at which things were solved, once again, very quickly. And his boss is, you can't get much higher up at our local level than him. And his question is, why are you taking someone that's worked for the company so long, is willing to do anything except for work this one day because of his faith? And made that very clear. Because I prayed and humbled myself, the manager that gave me problems the first time is also a friend of mine now. And him and I get along very well. The manager that helped me out this last time even came to me as I was working night shift, was glad that I was there, says that he is happy to have me there because I'm good with people, and wants me to counsel people if they need it at nights, because sometimes we had a few that even were having problems in their personal life, and would advise them to come and talk to me. It's kind of the moral of the story is you try to do things on your own with the trials especially that are to come, that we know, we preach about trials that are coming. You can't do it on your own. Without the Lord, we really cannot do anything. And that's why the cover of the bulletin, Becky, that was very strong. You know, through Him, He can give us all the strength we need. So now I'm going to go back to some of these verses. To the one in James. Being swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. At first, I was quick to anger, not slow to speak. But when those that know me know I can be like that. But when I finally prayed and humbled myself to the Lord, He taught me something I didn't have in my life really at all. I was not very patient. And I would get angry quick. But after that trial, slower to anger, more patience, and think about what I say. A few other verses to read. One is in Luke 12, 22 through 34. Kind of gives some reassurance when we're going through trials. Then He said to His disciples, "Therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, nor about the body, what you will put on. Life is more than food, and the body is more than clothing. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap, which have neither storehouses nor barn, and God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds? And which of you, by worrying, can add 1 cubit to his stature? If you then are not able to do the least, why are you anxious for the rest? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And yet I say to you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. If then God so clothes the grass, which today is in the field and tomorrow thrown into the oven, how much more will He clothe you, O you of little faith? And do not seek what you should eat or what you should drink, nor have any anxious mind. For all these things the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knows that you need these things. But seek the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added to you. Do not fear, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell what you have and give alms. Provide yourselves money bags which do not grow old, a treasure in the heavens that does not fail, where no thief approaches nor moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be." And that is something to remember, and something I had to even remember, even after all my schooling, going to a private school. The Lord is the one that provides everything, even when we do not ask. He knows what we need. He knows it before we even need it, before we can even possibly think of it. So when we're going through any kind of test, why worry? Another verse is in Matthew 10:29 through 31. It kind of captures the same thing of not to worry. And do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a copper coin? And not one of them falls to the ground apart from your Father's will. But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Do not fear, therefore, you are of more value than many sparrows. All we have to really do is look outside and look at nature. Look at the freezing temperatures that we had this last year. Yet the animals, as it gets warm, are still out there. They didn't freeze and all die. Yet even some people, I know in some states when it got cold, were scared and worried. Was that maybe a test, a trial for them? Maybe to put them on a track of where is their faith? When nature and everything else was fine, they were scared. Does the Lord test us in evil ways? No. But the devil does. He will test us. He will use others to test us, put us through any kind of trial he can. It says in the days to come that the trials will be like none ever has been or ever will be. A lot of people are worried about being killed and dying. But if you think about it in a way, the devil has done that already many times, thinking he can kill God's people off to eliminate them, to stop us from spreading the word. But in this day and age, that may happen. That's the nature of people when they choose evil. But in this day and age, he can use so many other tactics, economics, political, nature, anything, social media, the internet, our technology, use it against us to test us in many ways. But in the end, you have to remember, nothing is created without God, thus he has full control over everything. So when we're being tested, maybe we're being allowed to be tested to make us stronger. Going back to one of the other verses, we're in 1 Peter chapter 1, 6 through 7. It uses the analogy of gold, us being more precious than gold, but it uses the analogy of gold and how it's tested in fire. If anyone knows how the purity of gold is made, is by melting it down, putting it to fire to melt off any kind of impurities, the copper or slag, silver, or other metals that are mixed in it. The more fire you put to it, the more pure it becomes. So it's quite interesting how he uses that analogy in that day and age, and they used that same process thousands of years ago to refine their gold to the color that it was that we use today, making an understanding that way through the test of time. So I think that's something we almost have to think about, because if you think about it, you see gold everywhere in this world now. So when you look at gold, you can think about it. The more pure it is means the more tested it's been, but it survived. And it came through that test and became more pure. So the way to look at it is the fire is the trials we face, and the purity is us becoming closer and stronger in God. So in the days to come, I know things will get very difficult, but you have to remember, the Lord is always there for us. He's always with us. So when you fall into trials, like it said, be joyous in the trials that you face in your life, even some day to day, or like the pandemic, because all it did was make us stronger. You look at some, they fell away. They may not be, didn't come back. You hear so many other churches out there that lost their people when they couldn't go. They didn't obviously look in the right direction. Here, and even in my hometown church in Shawano, you see everybody except for maybe a couple people have returned. And those that didn't, it's for other personal reasons. Everybody wanted to come back. We took this trial together, faced it with the Lord, and we're all still here. So many others out there are still in fear, not even going to their church, praying to God. And the one place they should have felt safe was in their church, where they could pray as a group and have each other to hold them together. So when I go in, like here and everywhere, and I see all the people, to me, it's seeing like pure bars of gold that have gone through a test and have faced the trials of fire that the whole nation has and have come out closer to God. So in the end days, which will be much tougher, we all know that, just remember all the things you have gone through, things you're going through right now, and how the Lord was there for you then. He promised in the end times that we don't have to try to search for the words or actions ourselves when we are being faced and tried in the end times. He promises that He will give us the words, the actions that we need. And we don't have to worry. Praying to Him, He will give us everything that we need.